Hello, dear viewers, settle in. What unfolded behind closed doors at Windsor, according to multiple palace watchers and longtime insiders, wasn't just a family disagreement. It was a line in the sand. At 76, King Charles was said to be visibly shaken after hearing the words "no husband wants to hear and no monarch can ignore." Remove the money, remove the access, remove the influence, cut every official tie to Queen Camilla's family. The request, sources say, came not from courtiers but from blood, the heir, Prince William, and the iron-spined Princess Anne. The public version landed first, a sterile, sanded statement about restructuring royal trusts for long-term institutional stability. It spoke of streamlining, transparency, best practice. What it did not say spoke louder than the rest. Nowhere in those 200 words was there any mention of Laura Lopez or Tom Parker Bowles, no soft phrasing about continuity of engagement, no fig leaf about supporting roles. For those who can read palace euphemism, the omission was a verdict. Within hours the phones were melting, broadcasters cleared airtime, front pages reset layouts, and an unmissable pattern came into focus. Camilla's family had been written out of the plan. If it looked sudden, insiders insist it wasn't. This decision has the long shadow of a slow war. 4 years, polite invitations turned into regular presence turned into proximity. Proximity looked, to some eyes, like positioning. You could see it in the seating charts, the guest lists, the access to rooms where the china is heirloom and the conversations become history. Polite hospitality is one thing, a parallel orbit around the crown is quite another. William noticed. And noticed. Old hands on the household staff noticed and called it, quietly, entitlement wrapped in courtesy. Even those loyal to the king muttered that the optics were drifting the wrong way. Laura, poised and private, was often visible at the margins. Tom, respected in his field, was rarely on camera but, crucially, rarely far away. No one accused them of clamoring for titles. The unease had nothing to do with the children's manners and everything to do with a rule so old it's rarely spoken. Influence follows duty, and duty in the House of Windsor is paid for with service or blood. It is not acquired by osmosis. What changed the tone, according to those briefed, was a picture and then a paper. The picture, harmless to casual eyes, showed Laura touring Duchy of Cornwall assets. To the heir, the duchy isn't a portfolio, it's a trust for a future sovereign. That image, sources say, landed like grit in a wound already sore. Then came the paper, a leaked draft from long-term duchy planning, proposing trusteeships and advisory lanes that placed Camilla's daughter near the financial core of the institution. Not a title, not a ribbon, something weightier. The leak ripped the gauze off every quiet doubt. What had been inferred was now itemized. William did what heirs rarely do in public but must do in private. He said no. Calmly, directly, unavoidably. This wasn't melodrama, it was triage. He reminded his father, so the story goes, that institutions die not from scandal but from confusion of purpose. The monarchy has weathered abdications, divorces, and the drumbeat of modernity because the line who serves, who decides, who holds the keys remained clear. Blurring that line for affection would be remembered not as kindness, but as weakness. He was joined, steel to his velvet, by Princess Anne. Anne, who treats public life like farm work, daily, muddy, necessary, is the family's thermostat. When she cools on something, the system follows. Those close to the Princess Royal describe a conversation that was blunt without being brutal. She appealed not to sentiment but to memory. You are the king, and you are your mother's son. Translation: the late Queen understood that neutrality in politics is only half the crown's survival, neutrality in patronage is the other half. If you bend the rules for kin not born to them, you invite every future sovereign to bend them further. Tradition becomes preference, preference becomes precedent, precedent becomes problem. Camilla, say those who favor her, did not storm the battlements, she pled for her children's dignity. Laura and Tom, she insisted, have asked for nothing and taken nothing they were not offered. They were present because they are family, they stayed quiet because they are sensible, they stepped forward when asked and stepped back when told. To punish proximity, she argued, was cruel. To read scheme into courtesy was uglier still. It is difficult not to feel the human weight of that plea. Love and duty rarely share a table. When they do, one leaves hungry. But the leak tightened every screw. Public patience, always thin where perceptions of privilege are concerned, evaporated. Phones in constituency offices lit up. Comment pages filled with a refrain that crosses party lines and continents: protect the crown. And stock rose. William's stance was labelled necessary, overdue. Even critics of the monarchy admitted the move had logic. In an age of outrage, clarity is currency. The king, who has spent a lifetime braced against headlines, finally faced something older and heavier, a whisper from the ledger: history is watching. What happened next, by all accounts, was painful and private. In a small room, not a grand one, the king is said to have explained the decree to his wife. The trusts were being redrawn, access regated, advisory lanes narrowed to those who carry either the sovereign's burden or the sovereign's blood. No expulsions, no humiliations. Just doors that would no longer open on first knock. The line that matters most in this telling was 7 words long: the monarchy must survive us both. It is the sentence every consort dreads and every sovereign eventually says. The aftermath has been as quiet as the prelude was noisy. Laura withdrew without statement. Tom, ever the professional, limited himself to a mist of regret around conditional loyalty. They did not rage, they receded. Inside the palaces, the mood sobered. The queen consort, say those who see her, is present but less present. Engagements trimmed. Dinners shorter. The bright ring of her laughter, once a subtle metronome in the king's day, heard less often. Grief does not always come with funerals. Meanwhile, the public pattern shifted almost immediately. William stepped forward with a steadier gait, not triumphant but settled, the way a pilot sounds when the storm is behind and the seatbelt light is still on. And kept doing what and does, 2 steps ahead of the diary, 3 steps behind the cameras. And the king? He retreated into work. Not punishment, not sulk work. He knows the only antidote to a personal wound in a public job is output. Red boxes cleared, hands shaken, ribbons cut, soft power spent judiciously. If you're looking for palace intrigue, you can find it. If you're listening for institutional logic, you can hear that, too. There is a reason this decision resonates beyond gossip. The modern crown learned the hard way that mystique without discipline is theatre, and discipline without mystique is bureaucracy. What keeps the balance isn't gilding or gossip, it's guardrails. Who is in the room when decisions are made? Who signs the paper that moves the money? Who has a phone that rings at 2 a.m. when something breaks? In the House of Windsor, the answers must be ruthless and simple: those who carry the duty in public or inherit it in law. None of this means Camilla is exiled from influence. It does mean her influence now travels on the rails every consort has used: counsel in private, example in public, and a love for the sovereign that never asks him to choose between heart and heritage. That is a tall order for any marriage. It is a taller one in a family where the surname is a job description. There is another truth humming under the headlines. This wasn't vengeance for the past, it was insurance for the future. Look at the map: 3 children growing fast in Windsor, a nation often impatient with pomp but still surprisingly attached to continuity, a commonwealth deciding, country by country, whether the king is symbol or stranger. In that equation, ambiguity is debt. The decree pays some of it down. And yes, because you'll ask, somewhere in all this is Diana. Not as a ghost haunting corridors, but as a promise the heirs made to themselves as much as to the public, that when their turn came, the institution would be cleaner, clearer, kinder than the one that broke their childhood. Cutting ties is not kindness. But clarity can be. It gives the next generation a monarchy that knows what it is and what it isn't. That may be the only gift that travels intact from reign to reign. What happens now? Expect less spectacle, more scaffolding. Fewer adjacent faces. More Werman-like weeks where the news is dull on purpose. Expect the queen consort to recalibrate, not retreat. She has done that her entire public life. Expect William to keep choosing rooms where the crown meets the country at human height: school halls, factory floors, muddy touchlines. Expect Anne to be exactly as she is, relentless. And expect the king to keep choosing the sentence that saved his mother's reign and might yet save his: duty first, always. Your turn. Was the line overdue or overdrawn? Was this a necessary guardrail or needless hurt? Do you think the crown can be both modern and strict about bloodline when it comes to money and influence? And do you believe this royal reset steadies the path for William and Catherine, or sows seeds for the next storm? If you found this breakdown helpful, give the video a like so more viewers can find it, and subscribe for our next deep dive into the moments that matter behind the palace walls. Your comments guide what we cover, and you never fail to spot what the cameras miss.